Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying spooky season. And if you would like to see how I go from this to this, please keep watching. I got this tarantula spider from the Dollar Tree a few years back, and I had been using it for decoration, and I thought it would be perfect as the mama to all the little spiders in this DIY, so I just painted her black so she matched all her babies. For the wreath base, I'm using this wire. It's actually green because it had garland on it, but I used that garland for a different DIY, and I wanted to use this one for my spider wreath, so I decided to paint it white just so the spider webs would match and it would look a little more cohesive. Another thing I like about this wreath is it has two wires, and it's perfect because the lights themselves have these wires in it and they're extremely bendable. So all I did was tie one end of the light wire around it, and then I just went up and down, under and over the entire wreath until I got to the very middle and everything was completely surrounded by light. I sped this part up for you guys because it took me about 10 to 15 minutes to wrap the lights around the entire wreath. It was just kind of tedious to have to make sure that all the lights were in the perfect spot because I wanted them to be more towards the middle of the two wires or more towards the middle of the wreath itself. So just take your time. If you do this at home, watch TV, listen to music, and it should go by quickly. As I was wrapping the wreath, the remaining amount of lights fit into one hand, which was perfect, so I could just grab it with one hand and go over and under. It's a lot easier once you start getting towards the end rather than in the beginning because there's so much, it kind of tangles into itself. After the entire wreath was wrapped with lights, I used those lights to cut across the wreath itself, just so I had 3 little crisscrosses across the entire thing. You can make an X, you can make just parallel lines. I just decided to just wing it and go however I felt like it, and it worked out pretty perfectly because you can see the lights underneath, and then when you put your spiders on, they can adhere to the string light itself, and it's a really cool effect seeing them get lit up underneath. At the end of the lights, there's just a plain wire and a battery pack, so I just wrapped that around a few times and then laid the battery pack flat against the wreath itself and got ready to tape that down. I then used white duct tape to tape up my battery pack. I covered both sides of the pack, making sure not to cover up the button that changes the colors of the lights itself and to make sure that it's not touching, so if I had to change the batteries, I can just pull it out and not worry about any tape ripping. Then I used one long piece of duct tape to wrap my battery pack around the wreath itself, and of course, like I said before, I made sure not to cover up the button that changes the colors of the lights themselves, but most of my battery pack would be covered and held on by that duct tape. Here's the bag of webs and spiders that I used. I honestly only used a fraction of this webbing, so if you did this at home and you used this webbing, you could easily make at least 10 wreaths. There was so much left over. I did, however, use all of my spiders. Here's a close-up of the spiders that I'll be using. These came in the webbing bag, and all of the spiders were the same size except that one tiny one that I showed you guys. I don't know if he's the runt of the litter or somebody mistakenly put the small one in with those big ones, but I like him anyways. He's super cute. He's like the tiny one. He's the little guy, and I'm short, so it made me happy. And of course, I sped this up for you guys as well. I just wrapped the webbing around the entire wreath, the front and the back, and every now and then I would pull little strands and tie them against the edges of the wreath itself, just so it had more stability. But if you've never played with these webs, it kind of feels like cotton candy, but maybe a little thicker. So as you're pulling, you might be like making it thinner towards the end, and then you can just tie that part to the edge of the wreath just to make sure it all stays in place where you want it. I believe I only tied 3 spiderweb ends in place, and don't worry, you can't see it from the front, it only is visible from the back. And then I also went over these spiderwebs in the front one more time with another layer of spiderwebs. I put a second and final layer over the first layer of spider webbing just so I could cover any of those sparse areas, but not putting too much because I want my lights to still be able to shine through. And just like my first layer, I put my second layer on top in the front, and I pulled the edges long enough just so I could tie them in the back. I put a few knots just to make sure it's extra stable and it's not going to move anywhere, and I really like the effect the layering of the webs did. Then it was time to put the spiders on the web. The spiders themselves are rings, so you can wear them or you can use them as decoration. I obviously am going to put them on the web, but you don't have to do this part. You can completely skip it. I just wanted to cut a little bit of the ring itself just so it wasn't, wrapping around too many things, but you don't have to do that part. And then I just put all of my spiders on the web itself, and I made sure to do a few on the edges, some on the middle, and some I attached to the lights themselves underneath the webbing. After all her babies were on, it was time for Big Mama, and I put Big Mama on the top to kind of cover the battery pack with her butt, and I put her little leggies under a few of those spider webs, and she's not going anywhere. She's staying with her babies. I could have easily glued her butt down on the battery pack or just glued her down somewhere, even zip tied her little waist area, but it didn't move at all. It completely stayed in place when I put her little feet onto the webs. Also, this was supposed to be a tarantula, so it's kind of fuzzy, so the fuzzy material really sticks to the webbing. And this is the end result. I wanted you guys to be able to see it with all the different light settings. I can make it purple, I can make it orange, or I can make it strobe out. I wanted you guys to see it with the lights on themselves and also see it in the dark. It looks beautiful both ways. I'm really happy with the way this turned out, and I hope you guys like it as well. I'm not sure what I like better, the orange or the purple. Please let me know in the comments below, which one do you guys like better? Do you like it better orange or purple? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe if you're not already. And if you do recreate any of my DIYs, please tag me at AlaniDLC because I would love to see any recreations you guys make, and I will see you guys on Friday.